Legendary's ever-expanding Monsterverse has already made reference to Godzilla's classic Toho movies many times, but there are more powers and moves from Big GS history that we want to see in the Monsterverse. Across Godzilla's 5 appearances in Monsterverse shows and movies, he has used some of his most recognizable attacks to great effect, including his nuclear pulse, powerful tail whip, and different versions of his iconic atomic breath. However, with each new threat that arises, Godzilla has needed to find a new way to match their strength and battle power. The Monsterverse has progressed from the relatively grounded Godzilla to the more fantastic and over-the-top Godzilla x Kong, the New Empire. While some Godzilla fans lament the shift towards a less serious cinematic universe, the freedom of having fewer rules in place as far as realism is concerned opens the door to some of Godzilla's most iconic battle attacks. There are moves and powers from every Godzilla era that are due for a Monsterverse appearance, but these are the ones we are most excited to see. Godzilla's Judo Throw. All Monsters Attack, 1969. Godzilla Judo throws Gabara in All Monsters Attack. Toho's campy 1969 film All Monsters Attack, known in the United States as Godzilla's Revenge, is among the least popular of Godzilla's long catalogue of movies. It is almost universally disliked by Godzilla fans for its staggering use of stock footage, the reappearance of the most annoying version of Godzilla's son Minilla, and a thoroughly forgettable villain in the one-off bully Gabara. Godzilla fights through a smattering of past enemies, all in a young boy's dream, bafflingly, while Minilla fights and eventually beats Gabara. However, an angry Gabara ambushes Godzilla himself afterward. It plays out exactly how one would think a battle between Godzilla and a monster who couldn't beat up Minilla would go. The fight is woefully short and uneventful, as most of them are in All Monsters Attack, but it does give Godzilla one of his most memorable fight moves from the Showa era. In the course of their battle, Godzilla grabs Gabara and literally tosses him over his shoulder with a judo throw, which sends the abusive monster flying, thankfully, never to be heard from again. Many of Godzilla's most memorable moves from the battles in the Showa era were actually physical attacks, as the focus on suitmation and tokusatsu effects prioritized punches, kicks, and judo throws like in All Monsters Attack, given that they were the easiest to accomplish practically. While Heisei Godzilla turned the focus onto the different versions of Godzilla's atomic breath, the campiness of the Showa era created many memorable moments like this, and the new evolved Godzilla of the Monsterverse could easily replicate this as a tongue-in-cheek callback to one of Godzilla's worst movies. Godzilla's Flying Body Slam. Godzilla vs. Megaguirus, 2000. Godzilla's Flying Body Slam on Megaguirus from Godzilla vs. Megaguirus. Godzilla's pro wrestling moves didn't end with the Showa era, however. One of the best examples of his physical brawling skill came in 2000's Godzilla vs. Megaguirus, which is another widely panned entry in Godzilla's filmography, mostly because Megaguirus never seemed like much of a threat to Big G. One of Megaguirus' primary weapons was her ability to drain atomic energy from Godzilla with her giant stinger, which she could then repurpose into a massive fireball. At one point during their clash, she jabs Godzilla in the abdomen with that intent. Godzilla pulls her stinger out and plants it deep into the ground, holding her in place momentarily. He then, somewhat inexplicably, leaps high into the air and brings his full weight down on the giant insect, exactly like a professional wrestler jumping off the top rope of a wrestling ring. It's an admittedly ridiculous-looking move in that context, but Monsterverse Godzilla could certainly use it to devastating effect. In lieu of the campy leap into the air, it would be awesome to see Godzilla leaping from atop a cliff or building and burying his now sharp dorsal plates into an enemy.